Order. This meeting is being recorded by the local scene. Anyone intended to make an audio or video recording this meeting should notify the chair at this time. Hearing none, we will start by going through the roll call. Brian Payne is here. Alexander Graham?
Here.
Carl Pike?
Here.
Nathan Hedberg?
Here.
Dorothy McFarland?
Here.
Suzanne Haggerty?
Here.
Okay, the entire committee is present. So this meeting is intended to get public input for the community preservation plan. We'll solicit input from the community on how they envision the CPC should spend the money that we will be getting in for 2024. We will also solicit input from the key government groups of conservation, recreation, and affordable housing. All that material will be packaged into our CPC funding plan, which will be the guide that we use to review applications when they come in. So we'll start by opening it to public. If you would like to speak, we'll start with the public that's present here and then move to anyone who's online. If you'd like to speak to the CPC at this time, you can make your way to the podium and introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Marilyn Cozadoy. I am a former member of the CPC and a current member, excuse me, of the Conservation Commission. But really tonight I'm here to speak as a citizen. And what I'd like to request of the committee is funding to enhance accessibility and connectivity of open space trails. In the case of former town-owned cranberry bogs, they already have roads around them which would be easy to adapt to ADA compliance. In addition, interpretive signage and mapping would allow for a more welcoming access for activities that support mental and physical health. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other input from online? Okay.
Brian, if I may.
Yep. Yes, go ahead. Just identify yourself and...
Hi. Sure. My name is Megan Hickey. I currently sit on the Conservation Commission as well as the chairperson of the Open Space Committee. I first apologize. I wish I could be there in person and have been better prepared. I ask, if you guys have not, to read the Open Space and Recreation Plan that we just finally probably 6 months or so ago, and it has a lot of goals and objectives town-wide that we're hoping to have facilitated soon. The main one, in my eyes, would be the ADA compliance, try to get some of the trails. Minimum, I would hope 2 or 3, as well as connectivity from trail to trail, town-wide. Also, we are hoping to do a project behind the senior center, and we're hoping for your support regarding that in the future. Again, I do apologize that I don't have more for you, but I just came here to say that real quick.
Okay, thank you. All right, so if I can bring the committee's attention to Community Preservation Plan for the summer of 2024. You can see some of the comments that we've heard tonight are listed in the open space goals, which are on page 4, including trail connectivity and ADA accessibility. I see no reason to amend or revise the plan. Is there any questions or comments from the committee members?
Looks fine to me.
Could I say one thing about the,
Yep.
Could I say one thing about the senior center plan, the walkway?
Mm-hmm.
If you're at the senior center, there's very little land to walk on. You couldn't take a walk because it all either drops into a rain garden or some other thing like that, or right into the wetland, or the pond. I mean, so the connection would go by the pond and over the railroad tracks to connect with the land up near the ball fields eventually. And I think, having thought about doing walks, people have asked me, I used to do walks with people 20 years, and you can't do it there. It's just too dangerous. And there's no connection to any place that isn't any less, roadways, et cetera.
Of course, the CPC is a responsive organization. We can't go out and solicit programs or funding. We have to receive them.
Right.
So if that's a plan, a citizen group or organization would have to submit something of that nature. I would like to make one amendment to the plan on page 2. It has me listed as a representative from the Open Space Committee. I'm no longer on that. I'm a citizen at large rep. That's the only edit that I saw. Any other questions or comments from committee members? I'm willing to hear a motion to accept community preservation plan for 2024, 2025.
I move that the Community Preservation Committee accept the plan as presented with the one minor modification concerning the Brian Payne's situation.
Second.
Second?
Any further discussion? We'll do a vote. Brian Payne is a yes. Alexander Graham?
Yes.
Carl Pike?
Yes.
Nathan Hedberg?
Yes.
Dorothy McFarland?
Yes?
Suzanne Hegarty?
Yes.
Motion passes. Review dates for upcoming meetings and deadlines. Do we have that? That's on the website. I can just do it from the website.
You sure? I wrote it down on my notes already, but
I have it. Thank you. So our plan for moving forward is a meeting on November 7th, in which we will start to review the project assessment forms. January 9th, to review applications. February 6th is a hold date to review applications if needed. Last year, we did not need a second meeting. 2 years ago, we did. So we just have that second meeting in place in case we get a lot to review. And then March 6th is the public hearing for the final review of the applications.
I'll be out of town on November 7th, and I'd say 50-50 that I can come in via Zoom, but don't make any changes because of me.
All right, hold on. Actually, November 7th doesn't work for me either.
Okay.
it's up to you.
I have an event, so I would like to amend that if people do not object. And I'm thinking maybe move to the 14th. Yeah.
My only comment would be, if you move it to the 14th, you're giving everyone who's approved 1 week less to complete an application.
Right. So that would be the other way to go to, well, the other option would be the 31st, which is Halloween, so that's not a good idea. How many weeks? We still plenty of weeks.
You could always change the due date too, because you're
Yeah,
requesting the due date the 12th, but you're not meeting until the 9th. So you could push the due date out a week and change the date of your meeting a week.
applications are due on the 12th. We're meeting January 9th, so you're suggesting we move it.
Due date, what? The due date doesn't have to be the 12th. You're not
Right.
meeting, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah, I think the
I'm
issue
okay with
there is,
pushing things back 1 week.
So we could do it on the 19th, the due date on the 19th?
Yeah, that'll
All right, so let's amend the calendar for November 14th for our next meeting and moving the deadline for applications to the December 19th. Good. Entertain a motion to that amendment.
I move that our next meeting of the Community Preservation Committee be scheduled for November 14th, and that the deadline for submissions be November 19th,
December 19th.
December 19th.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, one comment I have is it does reduce our chance to review the applications before the decision meeting by a week. As long as everybody's okay with that, then that's fine.
Yep. Thank you, Nathan. Last year it wasn't a problem. The year before that, it was a lot.
And if they come in before the 19th, I will absolutely send them to you
Yeah.
prior to.
Any other discussion on the proposed change to the calendar? We'll vote. Brian Payne is a yes. Alexander?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Nathan?
Yes.
Dorothy?
Yes,
Suzanne?
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, if you turn your attention now to the late submission language. We discussed this last time. We received a rather late submission last year, and we kind of had to fake our way through the process, and it was discussed that perhaps we should have some sort of formal language. This was drafted up after we had our late meeting. It now is before you for your consideration. Open for discussion.
I just wanted to say that this is, it's in response, because I participated in that meeting when it happened. It was in response to a late submission that everybody saw value with, and we discussed, and we had the appropriate amount of funding, and it didn't impede on any other project that did meet the application schedule's ability to get approved, and we made a decision to go forward with it. But we did want to have a provision in our overall plan and process to consider this, which is why this was drafted and submitted. Which is one of the reasons why we encourage everybody to submit an application so that it can be reviewed. We heard a lot of great ideas already tonight, and we encourage everybody to keep coming in with them. But we just wanted to also introduce this new process.
I'm okay with it as written here.
Is that a motion?
Sure.
There's been a motion to accept the emerging late submission language and incorporate it into the operation of the CPC. Is there a second?
second.
Any further discussion? Take a vote. Brian Payne is a yes. Alexander?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Nathan?
Yes.
Dorothy?
Yes,
Suzanne?
Yes.
Motion passes. All right. We have before us a fall submission. I'm fairly new to the CPC. I've been through this, I think, 1.5 years now, and I understand that although most of our applications come in over the winter and funding for the spring, we do occasionally entertain applications that come in to be presented to the fall town meeting. Similar to the late submission policies, is dependent on the availability of funds, in addition to the merit of the application. My understanding is that we do have the funds available at this time for this project. And so we are able to review it based on its merit. Unlike the winter-spring review process, we have to do both stages now. The first stage is to determine whether or not the application qualifies for CPC funding. And the second stage is to determine whether or not the committee feels it's warranted to fund that. This falls under the recreation category. Happy to hear, happy to hear your pitch, and then we can discuss as a committee. Just identify yourself and we'll get started.
So my name is Carrie Whipple, and I am the principal at Kingston Elementary School. I'm going on my 6th year there, and I feel really fortunate because I absolutely love this community. I live in Plymouth, but my heart really is in the Kingston community. It's a very supportive community that I always feel like makes the best decisions for kids. I think it's unique in that it has one elementary school. When you look at other towns, there's 8, right? So there's 8 elementary playgrounds in Plymouth. In Kingston, there's 1 elementary playground and 1 Kingston Intermediate School playground. So we recently had the playground inspected, as I was supposed to have inspected. There was a little bit of a delay because we were on a wait list. The inspection came in and it said the playground was unsafe. In that moment, we had to make a decision to close it down until we got some other information, just because safety is going to be our #1 priority for our children here in Kingston. And once we contacted the company that built the structure, I think it was in 2002, he came and said that it's not a tear down and we can fix it, renovate it, make lots of repairs, and then figure out a way that we can figure out a way that we can then plan as a community to fundraise and build a playground that works for the community. I feel so proud to be the principal at KES because no matter what, our staff stand up and do what's best for kids. So they've done a really good job of having recess without a playground. I don't know anyone who's ever had recess in elementary years without a playground. I don't think many of us did. But thanks to KFE and some other funding, we were able to put down some paint stencils and create some other opportunities for kids to socialize and play. But I think at the end of the day, our students deserve a playground during recess. Our recess hours are 10:50 to 1 o'clock. So there's 6 different recess blocks. So there's 2 per grade level. There's 4 classes out there at one time. So it's nice to be able to break up the space. So it's not just all kids on the cement or all kids on the pavement or basketball or soccer. So there's kids that don't love playing soccer and basketball or doing chalk. And so the playground is an opportunity to include all students in the activity. So unfortunately, it has been closed down, and my hope is that we could get approval for the funds to fix it, and then hopefully work together as a community to figure out the best way to support the KES playground, as we will need to eventually build a new one in the next few years.
Thank you. So just to review for the committee, under recreational land, the definition is, quote, land for active or passive recreation use, including but not limited to the use of land for community gardens, trails, and non-commercial youth and adult sports, and the use of land as a park, playground, or athletic field, not for dog or horse racing. This would fall under the rehabilitation and restoration category, which is for, quote, make capital improvements or extraordinary repairs to make assets functional for intended use, including improvements to comply with federal, state, or local building or access codes. So it seems to me to qualify under the definition of rehabilitation and restoration of recreational land. I did reach out to our statewide representative to get some input on using CPC funds for school playgrounds. The short answer is yes, we can, but there is some complication to that. There are 2 subjective interpretations we need to make as a committee. The first is whether or not the playground is open to the public. CPC funds have to be spent on projects that are open to the public. And second, the permanency of the project. CPC funds are intended to be used on projects that are pretty permanent in nature. So short-term repairs would not be something that would qualify for CPC funding. Our state rep also gave some examples of when funding public school playgrounds didn't work out because the school sold the land or closed or something like that, but also some examples in when they did work out quite well. The only other consideration I think the committee should take into account is the amount of funding the town provides schools already relative to town expenditures. It certainly was not the intent of the state or Kingston when it voted for the CPC that funds would be going to public schools that already receive a pretty high percentage of the town's public funding. I'm not agreeing with or disagreeing with any of these comments. This is the advice direction that was provided by our state CPC representative. I'm happy to open the floor to discussion from committee members at this time.
I have just a couple of questions of the principal here. The $76,000 is the amount on this quote to just repair it and to put new wood chips in or whatever we want, correct?
And replace platforms. Yeah, it's for physical equipment too, yeah.
Yeah. Is that leaving a lot of the equipment as is and just updating it and repairing it, or is it replacing any of the equipment?
From my understanding, it's some repairs, but also replacing. So for instance, you know how like there's platforms on playgrounds to get to the next level? Like some of those platforms need replacement, or bolts and screws needs replacements.
Okay. And do you have any idea what it would cost to do the whole thing over again?
I've been throwing out a lot of numbers, some
300-400.
that are astronomical and really scary. But I mean, I've heard from 250 to 800,000.
Well, I was gonna guess $300,000 to $400,000
Yeah.
to begin with.
But I didn't, that would be a whole bidding thing, and
Yeah, you're right.
we're not there yet, so.
Yeah. So, and I hear what, the experts here are telling us about, using CPC money for this type of thing. I guess the only one that, really gets me thinking is the, so-called permanent. Well, there's very little that we ever spend money on that I believe is good for much more than 10 years to begin with. So if we want to consider, 5 to 10 years permanent, I can understand that. Beyond that, I'm not sure. But I think my main concern with this is that I don't like doing a $76,000 project with no competition. That I think that the way we're structured, the way we're set up, is to have all of the projects come in December timeframe to get vented, to get compared to each other, because we don't have unlimited funds. So that I would be more interested in this type of a project if it was coming in with all of our regular CPC requests, so that we're doing, looking at 6 or 8 or 10, whatever number of projects it might be at once. But that's just my personal opinion.
I think there's a sense of urgency to this.
I have a huge sense of urgency. I have 530 students. I have almost 200 kindergartners this year. It's our highest enrollment. We have 25, 27 kids in a kindergarten classroom. So to be able to have the space for kids to explore and play, I think is really important. Also, just to comment about the community piece, it's 100% a community playground. So the YMCA program currently doesn't have a playground to play on before or after school. Additionally, when parents call me and they tell me their kids are anxious, they're nervous about school, I say, come to the playground after school hours. Come be there, hang out, bring a pizza, bring some friends, meet a play date, your neighbor or someone from soccer, and make it a place where you can feel comfortable, be on the school grounds. And it's that common ground then when the kids who are really anxious about starting school can kind of feel more comfortable and have those play dates. So it's definitely a place for families to come together and socialize to support their kids' social emotional well-being prior to entering school.
Yeah, and I'll add to that point, I see kids and families there on the weekends, doing sports and soccer on the back fields, and you'll often see people on the weekends at that space. It's not locked on the weekends. is what
It's
you're
not,
saying.
no,
Okay.
yeah.
It's not accessible to the public during school hours, though. Is
Not
that
during
correct?
school hours, nope. So
And
after school
What are
hours
the
and
school
weekends.
hours that would not be accessible, like Monday through Friday from
Yep,
8 to 3?
8:20 school starts, and I would say school ends at technically 2:38, but the YMCA program is out there and ends at 6 p.m. But if the YMCA is inside, it's open because school has dismissed. So school, I would say by 3 p.m. Because we'll have families that will dismiss their kids and go straight to the playground with friends right after school on a nice day.
One of the things that, you weren't here when the Grays Beach playground was done, and everything was replaced. Wasn't that close to $1 million?
About 600, I think.
It was a huge amount of
Yeah, I
money,
think
yeah.
about
So
600.
76 is not bad.
I think the final cost was more around the 400,000, I remember. I can find the exact
Yeah,
figure.
I remember a bigger figure, but it's okay. I could be
It
wrong.
was definitely not $1 million, I'd say that.
Okay.
Can I add
I don't know
something
why
too?
that sticks in my head.
So to build a playground, and you guys might have more experience through the Grays Beach one, but it's gonna be a several-year project. It's gonna be lots of fundraising, lots of committee meetings, internal, externally. It's gonna be trying to go to bids and try to get, we have to get 3 different bids because of the cost of it. So that's gonna be years. So I guess my sense of urgency is trying to have something for at least the next few years. And I understand the permanency, and I agree that nothing is truly permanent, but if we can get 5 years, so that we have those 5 years to plan appropriately and build something, would be amazing for, I think, the community.
If these repairs were to be completed as they are now, how long do you think the playground would last before it had to be repaired again?
I think he was saying we can last at least 5 years.
At least 5
Yeah.
years?
I mean, I'm not a playground expert. I'm not gonna pretend to be one, but,
I'm not even.
but, yeah, he, absolutely. Like, when he came and met with my staff and the facilities director, he said, this is 100% fixable, and it just wasn't paid attention to. And, you know, I take responsibility for that as the principal. But, moving forward, we would be more proactive, for sure.
Carrie, I'm sorry, what year was it built again? Was it
2002, I think
2002?
March,
Okay.
yeah. So I think they say like 30 years, if I remember correctly. So that gives us more than 5, just over.
Yeah, I have some concerns with the application. The CPC needs to adhere to the community preservation plan that we adopted last year. Playgrounds weren't really in that plan. We have funded playgrounds in the past, look at our history, so question, how far does the committee feel comfortable deviating from the plan we voted on to adhere to? I also have questions about accessibility, you know, it not being open to the public for such a large chunk of time, although I guess if we also consider it being open in the summer, I would imagine.
School breaks in summer.
School
yeah.
breaks and things like that.
Holidays.
Certainly opens it up quite a bit more.
It's just 180 days,
Yeah.
when you look at it that way.
And the permanency of it, 5 years doesn't strike me as a terribly long time, although we're not talking about a ton of money here. So, you know, if we divide it out per year. I have questions about the application itself, like little things in it that
Yeah.
I'd like to see changed. For example, on page 12, under category A1, it says, in the second line, families could also access. If you could change the word family to the
Community
public,
members, yeah.
community members or something like that, appreciate that.
I can go through this and make, based on what I've heard about what the kind of expectations are for approving.
Yeah. Let's see, a few more here, if you indulge me a little bit. Under timeline on page 13, we would like to get the KES playground back to a safe working condition. It's pretty vague. Did you get a sense from the quote about a more specific timeline, when this could actually be completed?
I can follow up with them.
I mean, I think we have to vote on this evening, though. So,
I mean, they know it's urgent that we try to get this done, so it was my thoughts on what they were saying was that it's just a matter of ordering the materials and getting them in. But we need the funding to order them, that's the only thing.
Did you, are any of the copies of these things signed?
that was another thing. There's parts of the application that seem incomplete. There's no signatures. I'm sure we can take care of that tonight.
Sorry, it was my first time. I didn't
That's
know
all
who
right.
was- I didn't know who was
that's
supposed to be
why,
signing, if it's me or.
in the normal application process is why this is a couple rounds, so that we
Yeah.
can have opportunity to get
I hear ya.
feedback, and we
Yep.
get a lot of applications from first timers who don't fully understand it, the process. There's also, a list of questions, the criteria for each category, for open space, for recreation, community housing, and historic. It doesn't appear as if the applications address those on page 25. And it's just, I know as I came onto the committee a few years ago, I know that the committee had just finished completing this new application process to make it more robust. And these were specifically added to give the committee a better sense of the urgency of it, the relevancy of it. And none of the ones on the recreation seem to have been
So page
addressed.
25 would need to be answered.
Page 25.
Okay.
There's nothing in there discussing maintenance of the repairs. If we spend however much on this, what's to prevent it from deteriorating in 6 months or a year? So what sort of resources is the school prepared to invest to ensure that the project is maintained?
Is that, are you speaking to underneath the recreation selection?
Yeah, on page
Okay.
14, P9. I mean, these are all issues that the application, this is under budget explanation, that the application needs to address. A lot of it is irrelevant, you might have missed it, like abutters, you don't need to worry about that. Multi-year funding, you don't need to worry about that. Other funding sources, you could simply say none. You did say none at this time. But maintenance, control of site, restrictions, obviously, there's no hazardous materials. What about permitting? Something like this probably needs a permit.
I'll find out. We've done that already at KES this year, so
Yeah,
I know how to do that.
I mean, again, the problem is we have to vote on this today. And the application just strikes me as incomplete.
And I think that gets back to, one of the things, my concern is that whenever we do these types of things, and this isn't the first one, and I know, we did the same thing for, what was it, the well over at the Opachinski Fields. And it's one of the reasons I believe that we, really need to take a hard look at seeing these things that come through once a year. And I know it's considered a so-called emergency. I would be very surprised if you can get this done before winter. And I'm not sure how much you actually use the playground
Every single day,
during winter time.
unless it's raining. Unless it's raining, or unless it's like below freezing, and the kids are outside playing.
Snow and ice and et
Yep, even if there's
cetera.
snow though, they're out there,
Okay.
maybe not on the playground. Yeah.
So that my personal thing, I might as well put it right on the table. If we're gonna vote on this tonight, I'm probably gonna vote against it with the suggestion that the applicant, if they can't find funding somewhere else, I would be glad to take a much harder, much better look at this come December, January timeframe for the April, May town meeting.
I think we had a hand raised online. Is that still the case? Is that Megan?
Brian, that was me. It's Megan Hickey. I don't know if I can speak, but I did go through this whole CPC process for the Blackwater, and I guess I'm a little confused. I thought that the CPC funds can only be used on land that has been funded by CPC, like recreation land, open space, as well as maintenance was clearly not allowed for use for CPC funds. And I understand the urgency and I understand the playground, but I just didn't believe that CPC funds could be used on property that wasn't initially funded.
So we've gone round and round on that a few times and haven't really come up with a clear answer. You aren't allowed to use funds for maintenance, but you are allowed to use funds for rehabilitation and restoration. So the committee has to determine whether or not this is maintenance versus rehabilitation and restoration. I mean, personally, I think it qualifies in that regard. I mean, maintenance would be like painting it or adding wood chips. This seems to be a restoration project to me, but, yeah, my concerns is the application is incomplete. There's just too much unknown, here for me, and, yeah.
We have turned down other incomplete applications, and it wouldn't be fair to them to accept this incomplete.
Brian, do we know how much is in the general fund right now?
So, yes-ish, it's in the packet you have in front of you, $347,914.72 is our current, and from what I understand that, no?
No, sorry, I only gave you that piece of paper. so
Oh,
she doesn't-
I'm the only one that has that information. And that does not include the funds that we will receive in the next round.
Okay.
So, you know, beyond just this one project, the more I do research on CPC, the more concerned I have with how Kingston has run the CPC. It's sort of like, we'll just fund projects as they come, and if we have the money, we'll fund it, and if we don't have the money, we won't fund it. I'd like to see the committee, not tonight, or even next time, but start thinking like more long-term. I think it's perfectly fine to hold on to money. That's my opinion. I mean, I know there's been big projects that have come up that we haven't been able to fund because we didn't have the money.
Yeah, I think that I spoke to that, the fact, one of my first meetings here, that I too would like to see not always spending all the money and having a balance built up for the bigger projects. The one I compared it to was the building right downtown in Plymouth, that they just spent $3.5 million of CPC funds on. And I know Plymouth is 3 or 4 times bigger than Kingston, but still, I think that's something. But that really is, somewhat irrelevant for this particular discussion we're having on the application from the school. Again, I wish this was December, or the next time we're gonna talk about these, January of '25, and we were looking to weigh it in, and I think we'd have a lot more answers to some of these questions. I would probably be strongly supporting it, because I think you all know, I prefer spending money on school-related projects and, town-related projects that aren't specifically conservation or affordable housing, that we put money into those 2 places year after year after year. And so I think I've probably said too much already.
May I ask a question?
Yeah,
Certainly.
So if we were to wait, can I repropose this
Yeah.
at that time then?
Absolutely.
I just got this quote yesterday, so that's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, I know you're in a real rush.
Yeah.
And you're in a very tough situation, and I think my comments aren't a critique of you or your process here. It's a very complicated application
Yeah.
process. It's been made more complicated over the last couple of years, but for good reason, for vetting reasons. And I think the plan is very viable. I would love to fund it, but I think we're moving fast. I understand why you're moving fast, but
Yeah.
it's too fast. And there's too much information that we don't know, and as a committee, we're taking taxpayer money and spending it, and in the end, we're responsible for that. And if
I
we
get
spend
it,
it
yeah.
wrong, that's a heavy weight on me. So, yeah.
I just want to note that if she puts it in for the next round, money's not available till July 1st.
Yeah, that's what I knew,
Yeah.
so. What is the next deadline though? Just so,
We just changed
We
it.
just changed it, it's the.
No, so she would
uh,
start with her
Oh, yeah.
project assessment, which is a 1-page sheet. It's on the webpage, and I can send it to you.
okay,
It just gives a breakdown, pretty much at
October 24th.
October 24th for a 1-page sheet. And then if it's approved to move forward, then you
Then
have
it's-
like 5 or 6 weeks.
okay.
I don't know the time.
So the one-page sheet just does what we did real quickly in the first round, and that will be very easy for you, because in my opinion, it qualifies. It's recreation, and it's restoration rather than maintenance. And then I think you can take some of the feedback here and you have much more time to dig into the application, and that one's due December 19th.
But I'd be in competition with other people, right?
Right,
Okay.
right. So you can draw from a recreation bucket. There's a certain amount of money that's reserved just for recreation, but there's also a general fund too. And so even if all the recreation money is spent on something else, you'll be able to draw from the general fund.
Okay.
And I anticipate we'll have a pretty good amount of funding, but it's impossible to predict
Yeah.
what the applications are gonna be.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions for me?
I would encourage you to maybe continue to do your research and find something that might be more of a long-term solution for the playground as well. And, you know, 5 years, $70,000 for 5 years, after everything's said and done, and I feel like if you did more research, you might find other opportunities, who knows about funding or anything like that, that maybe something that will last longer and be more appreciated for longer, than quick, you know, kind of quick fix doing this fast. I would support any application, but I feel like it should be more. Me personally,
Yeah.
with the playground, I feel like there should be more for it. And I would like to see the investment in that playground to be something that's more permanent from wherever, than something that just for 5 years, because that could be something that could last for quite a while and be very well appreciated by everybody. So I think it's a great project, but I think that it needs to be developed, and I agree with the committee members.
Another thing for you to think about if you do resubmit is think about alternative funding sources. So if you have the ability to do some fundraising between now and
Yeah.
then, even if it's $1,000, it's
Yeah.
just so some sort of buy-in from the community, and that goes a long way in the
Okay.
application process too.
Thank you.
Um,
If anybody wants to help be part of my committee, let me know. If you want to volunteer your time.
Do you need to vote on that?
We do. It comes as a proposal, and so, so it comes as a proposal, so it's a motion on the table to, approve the funding, so does
One
anyone-
question.
Does anyone want to make a,
Could-
sorry, Nathan, so go ahead.
Could we offer to accept a withdrawal?
Oh, we could, I guess we could, Nathan's proposed, an idea to accept a withdrawal rather than having it declined. I don't, yeah. I don't know.
Or could we just defer a decision on it until formal submission of it for our next go-round?
Is that a motion to table?
Can we do that?
Yeah, I think so, yeah, we can table a motion for sure.
Well, I feel like, you know,
Definitely.
that would give time to update the application, go through everything else and resubmit.
That's if you
Consent.
want to continue with the same application. If you decide to go a route where it's a bigger, like, hey, let's just start over and redo the whole playground,
Yeah.
then you would just withdraw the application then and submit a new one for a $2.5 million state-of-the-art facility. If you want to, but you don't have to.
I would
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
though. I would love to build an amazing playground that's more inclusive for all students, because not all students can access the playground, depending on their physical disabilities. However, that's gonna take years, I think. If we're talking 500,000, that's gonna take a while. So I don't see that happening within a year. I think that's my concern. So if people have ideas on other funding, I know I have KFE and PTO, but we're talking pocket change, right?
Yeah.
Potentially. Like, we can do all these fundraisers, but to me, that's a long-term goal.
Yeah.
And then put aside, and this isn't even, I don't even know how to really do this yet, but having to get the quotes and the bidding, the permits, and all the town approving as well. So
Yep.
I don't know that that could happen.
It could always go into the town's capital plan, but then you're talking a lot of competition.
Yep.
You're talking fire engines and
Yep.
police cars and new police station and.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you probably, yeah.
I think in my very short experience on the committee, anything over about $100,000 has a much harder road for the CPC, because then it starts just consuming very large share. The other
Right,
side, instead of funding 5 projects, we're gonna fund 1,
right.
so.
So CPC wouldn't necessarily fund the whole playground. I would have to
Right.
get additional funding, and then
Right.
maybe, hopefully a portion could be funded through CPC as well.
Right.
Just kind of
Right.
okay.
I think that's the ideal
Yep.
situation, but
Okay.
it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, the information's helpful, because I knew nothing 20 minutes ago, so thank you.
So we have a motion to table the application regarding the Kingston Elementary Playground. Do we have a second?
Second.
You made the motion.
I thought you were taking his motion.
Second.
All right,
One thought on that.
Go ahead.
I think administratively, that kind of sounds messy. I might prefer to just reject the application now and let it be opened cleanly at a separate time.
We have a motion on the floor.
there's a motion to table it. So if that motion, so Nathan's added a comment to that motion. Any other comments on the motion? If you prefer Nathan's, then you would vote no on the table.
Carl made the motion, he has to accept the friendly amendment or not.
It's not an amendment, it was a
Well,
conversation.
to the motion it is.
There's no amendment to the motion.
Well,
Nathan,
Carl would have to say, yes, I'll take it, or vote on your motion that you have in front of
we're
you.
just gonna vote on the motion, I
Oh,
think. Unless Carl is prepared to withdraw his motion.
We're gonna vote on the motion as presented.
It's a lot like a playground. Uh, Brian Payne's a yes. Alexander?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Nathan?
No.
Dorothy?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Motion passes. That's it, I think.
Some minutes.
Minutes. Do we have the minutes? I didn't see them.
I didn't print them, but they were in the packet.
Oh, did everyone have a chance to review the minutes?
Cannot tell a lie, I didn't have time.
I didn't either.
I can put them in the next time.
I make a motion to review them and approve them at
Okay.
the meeting on November 14th.
Second.
Any discussion? Brian Payne's a yes. Alexander?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Nathan?
Yes.
Dorothy?
Yeah.
Suzanne?
Yes.
So not only did we bicker, but we also didn't do our homework. It's exactly like elementary playground. Is there any other news from the committee? I'm willing to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion? Brian, yes. Alexander?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Nathan?
Yes.
Dorothy?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Motion passes. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.